the last time you had a good time?
Good morning. Good morning.
Now back to Pam and Gary on News Talk 1480 WHBC.
Now, we were talking this morning and just a few minutes ago, of course, about our fantasy football show that we have on Thursdays, starting at 5 o'clock with Sam Berkwin and Tony Romano. And we just wondered, how many folks are actually dedicating time while they're at work to set up their fantasy football team? And is that good or is it bad or what does it mean? So we bring in leadership and workplace culture expert Neena Newberry. Good morning, Neena.
Good morning. How are you?
We're doing well. Gary and I are not into fantasy football or anything like that. I mean, we're into football, but not fantasy.
Yeah, it's a whole other game, and I'm just so hooked on real football, not this make up your own team and play it in your head kind of a thing.
But when it comes to the workplace, I mean, doing stuff like this, good, bad, what are your thoughts?
Well, there are definitely pros and cons to this. On the one level, I think it can be a great way to really engage people in a different way. So get people talking, create some positive energy and buzz. So, as they're making these decisions, tracking their teams, there's a lot of focus on it. So the thing you have to watch for is that it doesn't start impacting the ability for people to get their work done and at the level of quality that it needs to be done and meeting those deadlines. And the other piece is making sure that it doesn't leave, the people who don't necessarily want to play fantasy football, and doesn't leave them feeling excluded in any way.
Oh, there is that. It's those people over there playing fantasy football, right? But it's kind of like smokers and non-smokers in the office. It's us non-smokers have always been a little upset that they got an extra break, right?
Yeah,
how come they get breaks and I still have to work through it?
Yeah, well, you got to balance it out with the potential of them getting cancer, too. So.
Oh, okay. Well, you get to take the chance of getting it. I see how that works, yeah. But in fantasy football, it's a similar scenario in that if they're playing it on work time, and I don't know of too many people who actually do that.
Well, it's interesting because, there's some research that's been done that really estimates that, conservatively estimating if people are just spending a couple of hours a week, for that 4-month period at work, I mean, it can be about $13 billion in lost productivity. And so you can argue that there's an impact during the workday, and that's having an impact on the business. But I think the other part you have to look at is the additional engagement, how you're reinforcing a flexible, fun environment that people feel like they want to be part of. And if people are getting really distracted, then you manage that performance as you need to. So it's usually a couple of outliers. You may not need a broader policy that impacts everybody, but just keep track of, how much you want to focus on managing to results and the outcomes versus how people get there and when they do it. Because they might do some work outside of the workplace, too, to make up for the time they spent at work.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the March Madness thing. The same thing happens when March Madness rolls around.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of excitement and all of that goes around this, but I think there's an opportunity to really differentiate yourself as an employer here by being able to tout what a fun work environment is and engaging people and talking to them about things that they're passionate about other than the work that they're doing.
So are there a lot of companies where groups get together and they create their own company-wide fantasy football league? I guess that's possible.
Yeah. I think it happens a lot in different organizations. You look at the size and scale, 31 million employees participate in fantasy football. So this is pretty big.
Wow.
It's a $1.4 billion industry. So there's a lot happening here in terms of the time people are investing each week.
So you're suggesting Pam and I should go to the general manager's office and explain to him that perhaps this is a good positive for the company as a team building exercise.
Yeah, it could be right. But the two of you didn't sound all that excited about fantasy football.
Well, if I'm going to get the extra time off and I get an extra 3-4 hours worth of work that I'm not working, you know what? I really love fantasy football.
We can make ourselves love it. That's for sure.
Right. Well, let's go out and have a smoke, and we'll be right back.
Neena Newberry, workplace culture expert. We appreciate it this morning.
All right, thank you.
Pam Cook and Gary Rivers. We love you too.
WHBC. Canton's Morning News. News Talk 1480 WHBC and at WHBC.com.